Timon?
Yep. Hi, sorry.
Hi. How should we proceed if, it says that Larry is not coming?
Yeah. So let's see. I got a call from Larry early this morning that he couldn't attend. I was hoping a TST member would join who could help guide the meeting today.
I can help, but I don't see any items in the agenda, so I'm not sure what are we planning to discuss today. So we have a couple things that we can report with DAF about the whole infrastructure that we're kind of bringing back everything together. But besides that, I don't know whether the community has anything else on the agenda that we can cover for today.
Yeah, well, let's start with that, and let's see if anybody else brings any other agenda topics for today.
Sure. Daf, would you like to start? Would you like me to start?
Why don't you start? I'll chime in as necessary.
Okay, sure. So there are kind of like a couple things, well, three things that we're working together regarding the CI/CD kind of like pipeline. One is related to the images themselves, so the Docker images. Before they were being pushed through a Jenkins job, but at some point, basically that stopped working. I think last week, DAF brought back together the Jenkins job. Now images are being pushed to Docker Hub. But besides that, what we're doing is through GitHub Actions and kind of like following what we already have in the UPF. We are actually pushing the latest images. At least, well, we have a one plan like using the AMF as a reference repository, such that we can use the same structure of the repository for the other repos. The idea in there is that we are kind of like creating the Docker images and we are pushing them to the Aether registry. We have kind of verified and we have the AMF up and running and pushing the images to the Aether registry. Then besides that, we are, thanks to the canonical team, we start kind of putting together some of the GitHub actions there, like FOSA, license, check, lint, and a few more things. And we are extending that with the pushing the Docker images to the Aether registry, and also we are adding another action to verify whether issues or PRs are RNA stale. So if there is no activity on any specific PR or an issue for 30 days, we are closing them. Well, basically the dependable is actually closing them automatically. That's what I want to we want to plan, have the AMF as a reference repository for the actions perspective. And we are planning to replicate that same thing across all the different repositories. The only difference among those repositories would be the pushing the Docker image. That would be only valid for the repositories that have a Docker image, and the other auxiliary repositories basically will be exactly the same actions besides the Docker push and the Docker creation image. So that's from the images perspective. And
let me break in real quick here. Just to double check, one of the things we were also doing is previously images have been being pushed to Docker Hub for all builds.
Yes.
What we're contemplating right now, and like test approval or discussion, TSA approval discussion, is to push those incremental images to Aether registry and only push formally released builds to Docker Hub. That way, community and the in the know people grab Aether registry latest and greatest, but community people who just grab the stable Aether grab them from Docker Hub. Is that appropriate?
Yeah, so that's a good point, Daf. Just thanks for reminding me that. So currently, the Jenkins job that I mentioned at the beginning pushes two images to Docker Hub. The first, basically one image, which is basically the same image. One is tagged with the tag latest, and the other one is tagged based on the name of the branch, which typically is master, plus 7 digits like commit ID. but the image is the same. So, and those are the incremental images that DAF is referring to. So what we're doing at the moment, or what we are planning to do, is push this, instead of pushing to Docker Hub all these incrementals, pushing that to the Aether registry, and then as Daf indicated, just the release images, and probably I was thinking also the latest image should also be pushed to the Docker Hub as well, Daf. But not this like master dash commit ID incrementals itself. So, but that's something that we can discuss on the details for that and see what the community thinks about that. Okay, so that's
Gabriel,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, did we resolve the issues of like HTTP images not getting pushed?
No, we haven't talked about that. That's something that we will discuss with you last night, but probably DAF is not aware of that yet.
Yeah, I'm ignorant on that at the moment.
But Ajay, again, we already have the different actions in the AMF repository that we can use basically to replicate across all the different repositories, and then that issue will be resolved.
Just it everywhere.
Yeah. Then okay, so that is regarding the images themselves, and then the other component is the publication of the documentation updates. So DAF has a PR open already to actually do that through GitHub Actions. I ran some tests over the weekend, and I made I put some suggestions in your PR DAF, and then you can that basically resolves the issue that we were seeing about the no reference found.
Oh, good.
I figured out why that problem was after a few tests.
Awesome.
But yeah, so basically, either we can make the modifications to your PR, or there is a branch on my fork. If you want to use that one, we can go for that one either. So either option works fine, but that's gonna work.
Yep.
So the only thing that is pending at the moment is the publication of the Helm charts. So from the CI.
Wait, Gabriel. So,
sure.
So documentation job. Are you saying that now, if some members go and update documentation, we have the way to update the SD core documentation website with the updated content?
Yes. Also, we are almost there in the sense that DAF already has the PR open. There are a few things that need to be addressed. That's something that I put on my branch and also mentioned in the comment. But we can easily, that's something that we can have by today or tomorrow when we merge that PR.
Yeah. So, and then after merge, then we are right away going and doing the archival of the open cord SD core doc repository. As soon as this job starts working, so we should probably go and archive that, right? In the open cord, and the same way for the Helm chart, right? So to avoid confusion.
What explicitly do you mean by the open core version?
Okay, so documentation and Helm chart, these are the two repositories which Gabriel and of course you had created on the OMEC project, GitHub OMEC project. So we want to make sure that old repositories on the open cord are like archived as soon as the job starts working.
Sorry, yes.
Oh, the ones from Garrett. Okay, yes.
Yeah, Garrett, open cord Garrett project.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So documentation is still there. I mean, we are still not done, but looks like we will be done.
Actually, the latest commits or updates to the documentation are already done in the GitHub repository.
Correct, but I want to see that final success of website getting updated.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what we need. That's what I mentioned, that DAF already has a PR open. We need to just address a few things that I put in the comments in there, and we will be good to go with that one. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that is regarding the documentation, and the last component that was kind of like missing, or is still missing, is the publication of the Helm charts. For that, already I have a GitHub action ready to actually do this. Something pretty similar. So I took as a reference the Jenkins job or what Jenkins is doing for the publication of the Helm charts, but it would be good. I mean, probably maybe with you, Ajay, since you have more historical background on how things are done. So I basically what I have in GitHub Actions is an equivalent of what Jenkins was doing, but I just want to make sure that I'm not skipping anything. And there is also it uses a rsync script. And I believe that should be exactly the same rsync script that we're using for the Docker Hub, which is basically the rsync is just an SSH connection towards a specific server. I believe it's the same, but that's something that I need to double check either with you or maybe Daf also can help us with that, those details. But yeah, so I do have that ready, and again, I just need to double check that part, and then we'll be completed with from the CI/CD point of view for images, documentation, and Helm charts.
Okay.
Yeah. Now something that I would like to kind of have some clarification. I mean, to see what the community thinks. What is regarding the publications of the images to Docker Hub. So I agree with the DAF that in Docker Hub we should only publish the latest and also only the release images instead of kind of keep publishing every single incremental image. I don't know what everybody else thinks, and so I can make the modifications to the action to not only push every single incremental to the Aether registry, but also publishing the latest and also only release images to Docker Hub, so we can have that in the same action as well. Any comments, thoughts, suggestions?
Is anybody on mute? We're not hearing anything.
Hey, Gabriel, can you probably ask the question again?
Oh yeah. No, I mean the comment, basically the suggestion now is to have all the images having the increments in the Aether registry, and only pushing to Docker Hub the latest image and release images. So nothing else. So
this sounds good, but you will have this job which will take care of like as and when we do the.
Yeah, the idea. So at the moment I have the job publishing everything to Docker to the Aether registry. I can expand that again based on what we decide. I can expand that to actually make it just publish the latest image to Docker Hub, and also only the release images to Docker Hub. So that's the point will be to get some feedback from the community to see how we would like to proceed on that component.
Sounds good, but what is the use of pushing it towards the latest image to the Docker? I mean, why not just push only the released version?
Sure, that's fine. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it depends on the community. If we want only the release image, that's okay. I mean,
yeah, I mean, because the latest one will probably always contain the latest changes and might need some updates and testing and stuff. Probably it's better to just push the release versions, I think.
Okay. And probably this would be, since we're talking about the release images, I mean, it would be good to touch a point that was brought by the canonical team a while ago about tagging the release, or no, it was tag. Gulami, please remind me that component was about tagging the release images, or it was creating a branch for the release images?
Yeah, I'll create a document for this. I said I would do it, and I haven't done it yet. It is on the list of to-do things for us, and I'll present that at next TST. But yeah, the main idea here is to use GitHub releases to associate releases with actual code. So if you go to GitHub right now, there's no you don't see any reference to 1.3. This is not done at the code, and we want to take that direction, or at least encourage the community to take this direction. I'll prepare a document, show it, get feedback from you guys, and then we can make a decision as to if this is a good idea or not.
Yeah, because I think that's the kind of around this time is a good time to kind of make that decision, in the sense that, you know, we're getting ready for the release, and if we are planning to go for that option, so it would be good to do it now. And especially, you know, we are bringing back all these automation component together, so it would be good to do it now, and I mean, in this coming weeks, so we do it before the release, right?
I 100% agree with you. I'll present something to you next week.
Okay, cool.
Just double checking, as part of that process, are we talking about a stepped version of releases? Like Aether is a release that is comprised of multiple sub-projects. Are we talking about one version for everything, or a version for Aether that encapsulates the versions of the individual sub-projects?
Yeah, here I was mostly thinking about the individual sub-projects, but you're right that there is the overarching component. But here I was thinking, let's take the AMF. AMF has a 1.3 version, and I'm always really thinking about the sub-modules, but you're right that we should also include the...
Okay, just want to make sure that was on the plate.
Yeah, good point.
Be aware, you know, we need to somehow be able to release our sub-projects independent of the top project and still have everything make sense.
Agreed.
Yeah, okay, so then again, so probably we need to sync up with you, Daph, to see about this rsync script regarding the publication of the Helm charts. And from that perspective, those three components of the, you know, automation of publication of images, documentation, and Helm charts will be completed. And from there, what else do we have pending from the perspective of getting ready for the next release? Any comments, suggestions, or what else?
We had the other thing, right? Like deciding like what tests to be carried out, and
yeah,
that's one of the area. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, probably that will be a good question for you, Leami. How do you guys typically use or test when you want to kind of have some, you know, update into the SD core? What kind of tests do you guys typically run?
Yeah. So so for what it's worth, we don't use the Docker images. So we build our own images of the SD core based on source code. I mean, we can do a demo about this at some point. But so what we do is we build a custom container image based on the new hash. We would very much like to point to actual releases instead of hashes at some point, but that's related to the earlier topic. And then we run our end-to-end test. So our end-to-end test will deploy all of the 5G components as well as Genode bsim, and they will run a simulation. This is all automated, and yeah, I mean, so it's the complete Genode bsim simulation. It's very simple in the sense that it's not a lot of use cases, but at least we know that a simulation runs properly.
Oh yeah, no, but our question is more like Genode bsim has like a few profiles in there, right? It has like around 8 profiles that you can enable. When you run the simulation, do you run all the 8 profiles? Do you run just a one profile? Because by default, it only, at least when we're using Aether in a box, by default, it only profile 2 is enabled. And that's what I wanted to kind of, you know.
I think we only use one profile. I would have to validate if somebody else on the call knows the answer. Okay. I think we only use one such profile.
Yeah, because the other thing that we were kind of thinking about these different tests is when I review a PR, I typically run 7 profiles, 7 out of the 8, because the last profile that requires some input from a trigger from the core network. Of course, that always fail, but it's not because there is an issue with the simulation, but it's basically we don't have the trigger on the core network side. So from that perspective, I always run profiles 1 through 7 to make sure that different components run fine, because sometimes it passes profile 2, which is the default one, which is very fast, but sometimes the other profiles fail due to some of them use a different call flow from the control plane perspective.
Okay, so
No.
yeah, I just checked. I linked the config file. I believe you only have one profile, so there's a list, and there's only one item in that list.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because besides that, there is two more options that by default are disabled. One is, each profile can handle any number of UEs. You can make the UEs run in sequence or run in parallel. So by default, it's typically in sequence. So it runs one UE, the whole procedure for that profile for one UE, then goes to the next UE, and then goes to the next UE. So we were thinking, make either the combination or basically test them in parallel instead of testing in sequence. So partially we are testing basically not that much load, but at least testing, it doesn't take that long, the profile. So if I run all these tests in sequence, at least the 7 profiles takes around typically 15 minutes to run one of those tests for all those profiles. But lastly, I basically start experimenting I think I have 2 or 3 profiles that are going parallel. So the time now it takes is around like 10 minutes. So, the shorter time that it takes to run this whole end-to-end is more efficient. So I can move on, make sure that everything is working fine on that. So I can move to review the next PR. Okay, so that's one thing. So running the UEs in parallel. The other option that the GNLB also provides is to run all the different profiles in parallel. So let's say profile 1 runs at the same time as profile 2, the same time as profile 3, and so on. Of course, for this to work, you need to have different UEs assigned to different profiles, right? So otherwise, the procedures are going to collide if you're running the same thing in parallel for all the same UEs. So this is the kind of things that we were kind of wondering what would be the most appropriate way for us to test to make sure that any change that we do make in the core network, everything still continues working as expected. So that was kind of the point, or at least the agile was indicated. So what should we, besides the 7 or 8 profiles that are there, what else we should need to test to make sure that everything actually is still working as expected, or what else might be missing, or what bug have been introduced due to certain change, let's say. So yeah, it was more from that perspective, kind of like to know what kind of tests you guys run, and to make sure whether you have any insights on on this, what kind of how to set up all these different tests, or what exactly to test on, and in what way.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of things there. So one of the questions is the what to test, and this is more or less a 5G/product question. Like, what do we claim 5SD core does, and then this is what should be tested probably.
Mm-hmm.
And for this, like, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion. Like, the community comes up with a set of features, and we're interested in testing those.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do we test this is the second question.
Right.
And this we use like our own deployment solution and infrastructure for achieving this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I'm going to be very much opinionated in the what we test. I think this is like well, right now NF, but at some point LF problem to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And the how is this? The how is very much more where I think we would be interested in. But yeah, currently we only run one profile in the GNLB.
Oh, okay.
But it would be quite easy to extend this to more than this, so that whenever you ask us, for example, like, did you test this? Well, we come with a stronger yes. If we've tested multiple profiles that test different branches of the code.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that is the other part that we are kind of like putting together as well. At least with Larry and Ajay, we start kind of. I think Larry shared the link for the kind of like the roadmap draft document that we start kind of putting together. Yep. So we mentioned a few things there, and still adding a few more things that, again, I think he put the link in the agenda, or in the document where we kind of have the running agenda. If you guys have any insight in there, feel free to kind of add what would be relevant that we can add from the roadmap perspective.
Yeah, I think where we wanted to be more involved is in the release process. Like we talked earlier about the having tagging releases. So this is where I think we want to have more of an impact and making sure that we do things like in the right sustainable way for the future. In terms of features, I don't know if the release date is fixed, but if yes, it is in 1 month or so. So we're not going to propose any other feature. Our focus will very much be on quality and making sure that the release process is smooth, not so much what is in there. I think one question that was brought up, or point that was brought up, was the fact that should this be a minor or even a patch release? So currently, what 1.3? As far as I understand, there's not that many features that were added. So lots of what we did, like Canonical, is very much a patch. So I mean, from what I know, 1.3.1 would make more sense than a 1.4. But maybe there's features that I don't know about that.
Yeah. So well, in the control plane, yeah, there is what we did in the UPF. Basically, we had two kind of like I believe relevant features that is part of a longer term plan. One, we enable GTPU path monitoring, basically to kind of collect metrics from an end-to-end perspective, following the 3GPP specs, like for release 16. And also we enable the UPF to work with CNDP. So the UPF works in a few modes, the AF packet mode, AF XDP, and it was working on a DPDK mode. And we have this kind of like a little bit lower performance compared to DPDK, which is the cloud native data path. We enable that capability as well. So those are kind of the high level features that we have added from the UPF perspective.
Sounds good. So maybe it's right, 1.4 could be the right way. I just didn't have this insight, honestly. So yeah, that's good.
Okay. So now, for now, regarding the next release, we are having kind of like weekly meetings with Ajay and Daf on kind of like, again, putting back together all these different components. If you guys want to participate, we're meeting on Thursdays, 3:30 is that, right?
Correct.
3:30 where?
3:30 Pacific time.
Okay.
Yeah, Pacific time. So if you would like to join, we can extend the invitation, but the meeting was to kind of start putting together the whole thing. And again, if you are interested on the release process, please, you are more than welcome to join us and help us to kind of keep shaping the release for next release.
Yeah, I think we would be interested. I don't know who in the team, but yes, like right now we can place my name, and I'll probably I'll speak with the rest of the team to figure out who's the best person to be there. But yeah, definitely, especially around, like I said, the process itself, not necessarily what comes in it. But yes.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to, again, several of these things were done with Jenkins in before of how the process was. So that's why I'm trying to kind of now bring it in to make it more easy for the end users to see what is in the process, in the sense that in actions, you actually can see what is actually happening compared to Jenkins that is not necessarily see what is the run task in there. But yeah, we can have this. The idea is to having a more like standardized way to have this release process, and we can establish a good release process so we don't have to change it for quite some time then.
Yeah. Yes. So yes, please please involve us.
Okay. Cool. So then that we can send the invite to.
Yep, I'm setting it up now.
Yeah, you're gonna. Is there any specific person would you like us to invite? Multiple people or?
Right now we can place me, and I'll speak with Mark and just I know I think they're on the call right now, but so we'll align between ourselves. It will probably just be one out of us three, but right now we can place my name, and if
okay,
we'll speak, and we'll figure out who should be there.
Okay, yeah. The last few sessions we have primarily kind of trying to bring everything back together, and at least making sure that everything is getting published, and we are almost there for at least those three components that I was mentioning earlier. But again, tagging the branches, so getting that insight from you guys would be also good to have, and how we can proceed, or how we can establish the whole process for this.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Is there a draft Is there a draft of release notes or just sort of documenting all these components that are going in?
Yes, so that is the roadmap document that I was mentioning earlier that Larry start putting together. So that's where we start kind of like writing some notes of the different components, and what we are doing with Ajay and Daf is just going through all these different components and see what we are ready and there. So I believe, let me see if I think it was in the agenda. Blah blah blah. I remember Larry shared that document. Let's see. Yeah. So in last week meeting, there is one bullet point that's called roadmap for Ether. No, it's not that one. Sorry. Yes, it's called preliminary notes on SD core roadmap. That's the link where we are putting the different notes together for the roadmap.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Is anybody else has any other insight, any other items that would like to discuss during today's meeting?
Yeah, Gabriel, I can add some points on QA activities.
Mm-hmm.
So we have created a basic test where we are running multiple profiles with a minimum of 3 UEs for now, and we will extend it. We will add more UEs to it. So we will have at least 10 UEs running per profile. So I have added a link where um, the Jenkins job is set up, and uh, we are also working on creating a new framework for on-ramp because earlier we have created a framework for AIAB. So the GNB sim multiple SD core tests um, were converted with GNB sim. Uh, um, you know, Earlier those were getting tested with NG40. So we have converted it into GNB sim tests, and we were earlier running it with AIB, and now I discussed this with Larry, and um, we finalized that we will create a new framework for on-ramp.
Okay. Oh, cool.
So for that, we have just set up a basic test where we are testing that multiple profiles could be run using some Docker commands. So that integration test is ready.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we have also encountered a UE failures thing in one of our integration tests where we have used the new image of web UI.
Okay.
So I am in discussion with Ajay for this, and we have seen all the UVs getting failed. So, and it was an authentication request only. So we are also debugging that how what all things are uh, required for getting a root cause, and we are also checking all the logs of AUSF and web UI so that we can see where exactly it is getting failed.
Okay. Just to let you know, in my case, as I mentioned earlier, when I run a test, in my case, I'm still using Ether in a box at the moment. By default, just give me 1 sec. No, it's not this one. Sorry, I opened the wrong. So by default, I have the 7 profiles, and I am using basically I'm using the latest images for everything. Everything that has to be related with Docker images, I use the latest images for those. So, and I don't see any problems related to as of now, everything that is committed, everything basically is running fine. So the only thing that I have seen that I believe is not necessarily seen on ramp. So profile 1, which is the registration, that one I make it run. I am able to make it run in sequence or in parallel. So for now, I have that running in parallel, just to kind of minimize the time that I spend just basically making sure that everything runs. Profile 2 is in sequence. Profile 3 is in parallel. Profile 4 is in sequence. Profile 5 is in sequence. Profile 6 in sequence, and profile 7 in parallel. Yeah, those, I mean, with those kind of combinations, but again, enable profiles 1 through 7. I don't see any issues about authentication of anything of that sort. So everything basically completes the simulation, having the latest images for everything completes successfully for all these different profiles. Yeah, just kind of to let you know. So I'm not sure whether you are using latest images for the other components as well, or something like that.
No, we are using 0.13.2 Helm chart, and with that we are using the web UI image provided by Ajay.
Oh yeah, no,
So
in my case,
yeah.
Sorry, in my case, what I'm referring to using the latest images is basically for the Helm charts. Again, I point the Helm charts to these latest images, and that's basically what I use. So I use the latest charts, pointing to these latest images that I basically created locally on a machine. And with that combination, I don't have any issues. So the whole simulation the whole testing completes perfectly fine.
So do you think the combination that I'm using might be causing this issue, or because the images might be older ones, so the other images might not be compatible with WebUI maybe?
That's something that I may think it might be that the issue, but and that's what I'm highlighting, that in my case I'm using latest images for everything that has to do with Docker containers. It's already latest images, and simulation runs fine. The whole testing, end-to-end testing runs fine. Just kind of, probably that may be where the different versions of different images is not necessarily getting compatible, and that's what may be the reason why you're having issues in there.
Right. Yeah, that could be an issue. I mean, maybe once the new Helm charts would be available, I think we can create a new test and check if everything works fine there or not.
Well, my point is you don't necessarily need new Helm charts. In my case, I'm using, I'm getting the Helm charts locally, and I'm pointing to those Helm charts. And those Helm charts are using the latest images. So
yeah, so customizing it with new images would work.
So the umbrella SD core Helm charts has the option to bring each of the individual components from the repository, or use the local components that you already have there. So in my case, what I'm doing is I'm pointing to the local components that are there, and that's how I point to the latest images.
Right.
Yeah, if you want, we can discuss later, or another time I can provide the details of how actually I'm doing it, and then you can run a test with that to see whether that's working, so resolves the issue that you're seeing. But again, in my case, I'm just running five UEs for the profile, so that might be one of the issues, and I don't see any issues so far with any of these combinations.
Sure, we'll discuss about it.
Okay. Yeah. What else do we have? Do we have anything else in the agenda? So I see some notes in here.
So I just had a quick question under any other business is
Sure.
if there is TST next week, because I know that there may be a bunch of people off at MWC. So wasn't sure if.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably we need to kind of double check with Larry. Let me double check with Larry and then pass the question to him, or and see, get back.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
So is there anybody on the call today that's going to be at MWC and can't make it? So my suspicion is that most of this group will not be impacted by MWC travel, and we should plan on having the meeting next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, any other comments, questions, any other item?
Sounds like it.
No. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for running
Thank you,
meetings
Eric.
today.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
No problem. Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.